Right, what I'd like to do now is show you how to do painting skills on sugar. I've got a sugar plaque here and I've got a design that's been transferred onto it. I'll just go through my equipment. I've got number 1 sable paintbrush, really important to have a good paintbrush when you're doing painting skills. I've got some water and I'd like to show you the difference between water and a dipping solution. So this is a dipping solution that I'm going to use, and I'm just going to pour a little bit into a container. I've also got some a piece of tissue, and I've got a sheet, and on this sheet I've got different food colours. This is the normal gel food colours that you can buy. So I've also, because they all look the same colour, I've made a note on them to say what colour they are. Okay. So painting skills, I'll just give you an example. So that's a good example of painting skills, and that's another one. Okay. Painting can be quite a quick, effective skill to put on a cake. Now, I've got my food colour, so if I just use the food colour by itself, it will come out quite thick. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of water to it. And by adding water to it, it lightens it. So I'll just turn this plaque over so I can give you a bit of an example. So just the food colour by itself will be quite dark. Just wipe that off. But when I add water to it, it can become lighter in colour. And the more water I add, the lighter it will become. And that's just by using water. So I've got dusty pink here. And you can see that it's become lighter. If I wanted to go darker, I could add a little bit of black food colour to it. So a little bit of black and a little bit of pink together, mixed together, would give me a darker colour. Okay. So you can wash your brush in the water. Keep it nice. Something else I've got here is the dipping solution. So I can use a dipping solution, I can use alcohol, so a clear alcohol like gin, vodka, white rum would work really well. And the dipping solution, I'll just make sure my brush is clean, works just the same as the alcohol. And what you can do, you can mix it, replace the water with a dipping solution and paint it on. Okay, again, by adding more of the dipping solution, it makes it lighter, and so on. What's the difference between the water and the dipping solution? Well, the dipping solution can evaporate very quickly. So if I wanted the painting to dry very quickly and paint over it, that would be really good idea. If I just use water, just as you can see, I don't know whether you can see that actually, that is still drying, where the dipping solution one is starting to dry already, but this is still a little bit wet, which is fine if you've got a bit more time to spare. What it does do is give a more solid colour. So if I just lift it up, you might see the difference. The water by itself is a little bit patchy, but I use water all the time and it's fine really. Okay, so we'll just turn the plaque over and give you an idea how to apply it. So either water or the dipping solution, mix with a food colour on your brush and you paint with it. Now if it gets a little bit watery, with too much water on your brush, just touch it off on a piece of tissue. And I'm just following the line of my design. Now sometimes when you're using a brush, it can become a little bit sprayed out at the tip. So what you can do is just roll the brush to get a better surface area, finer surface area. So it's almost colouring by numbers, just colouring, shading that area that you want, sorry, colouring that area that you want, and it's following a pattern, so it's not too difficult. Now you can spend quite a bit of time on this. It's a really enjoyable thing to do. Okay, so I can use it like that. Now I'm going to use a slightly darker colour in the middle. And I'm just colouring in a different area. Okay, now it's nice to know how to shade, so I might want to shade this particular area I'm using. So using the little bit of the pink, the dusty pink, with a little bit of black mixed together, I could bring in a darker colour at the bottom. A bit more together. And bring in the colour up. Now to blend those two colours together, you can see it's a bit patchy at the moment. I could just use a damp brush and mix the two colours together. So the effect I want there is the darker colour at the bottom and the lighter colour at the top. And that's called shading. Works really well. And even if I want to go darker at the bottom, I could just add that by itself. And then blend that in. Just with a damp cloth, that's why I'm taking off some of my water. Don't forget, this is a sugar plaque, and if you put food colour on your brush with water, the water will affect the sugar plaque. It will just dissolve the sugar. It's quite nice if you can blend the two together. Okay, so we've got shading. What you can do, so I'll just show you the difference with dipping solution. You probably wouldn't see any difference. So I've got a little bit of violet here with the dipping solution, and I can paint in, I've got a little bit of colour on my finger. I'll just take that off in case it marks my plaque. I think the dipping solution just obviously dries quicker, but also gives a smoother look to it. So what else can I do? Once that's dry, I could paint over the top. So I've got the violet. I think that pink's more or less dry now. I could paint over the top of it, so I could add something to it. The only problem with the dipping solution, it dries a little bit too quick sometimes for what you want to do. So you can see here, I'm painting some dots. Once that pink's dried, I can paint a darker colour over the top. Okay. Something else I can do is outline. So I can outline with just a plain black. Again, as you can see, I'm rolling my brush, so I'll get a nice fine point on my brush. And I could outline it, so I'll outline this one. Just takes a bit of practice. Maybe a little bit of practice on a spare plaque, just to get the feel of the sugar instead of the table. So I can outline. So I'm going there round the pink. And I can do the same on the other side. Don't put too much on your brush. Take it off if you've got too much on. Okay. So straight away, I've shown you a few different techniques. I've used just plain painting using water. Showed you a plain painting using dipping solution. I've showed you how you can overpaint. I've also showed you how to shade, and I've showed you how to outline. Now, what else I'd like to show you? I'm just going to put those food colours to one side, and I'm going to show you to use dusting powders. So dusting powder is another form of food colour. I can lighten it, yes, with water, yes, with dipping solution, but I can also lighten it with a little bit of white dusting powder as well. So I've got a selection here. I've got 2 different shades of violet. I've got black for shading. Oh, I've got a red, I might not use it. But I'm just swapping over. So I've got another pot of clean water here. So you do need to keep changing your water, because you can see this colour water is quite coloured now. That might affect my painting. So, so I'm just using the water, and I'm mixing it with the dusting powders. Now I think this gives a different look on painting. So let me see on the painting area. There we go. So it does look different. It looks more of a solid colour with dusting powders. And I'm going to add a little bit of white with that lilac. And I'm going to paint down the bottom in a lighter colour. So again, blending the 2 colours together. A little bit of water by itself. Not too much, I'm just drying off my brush a little bit and blending the 2 colours together. So straight away there I've got a little bit of shading. I can add a little bit of black dusting powder to the purple, and I can come from this area to add a little bit of shading. And again blending it in. If it does get too wet, all you need to do is get a little bit of tissue and just dab it, so it soaks up any moisture that you may have applied, and then you can paint over it. And you can see that I'm blending in, I'm making it shaded. So I can blend in colours, I can make it shaded, so it's going darker right the way around to lighter, and that'll be fine. I can use the other skills exactly the same, so painting lines, dots over the top, lines over the top, so I can paint on top of things, and I can shade exactly the same using dusting powders as I did with the food colours. So 2 techniques in one. Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to show you how to do cocoa painting. So what do I need for cocoa painting? I'm going to do it on a sugar plaque. I have a design transferred onto there. A number 1 brush. I've got a bowl of very warm water. I've just put it in the microwave, or you can boil a kettle up. And I've got some dusting powders. I've also got something called cocoa butter. So just turn the lid off, and you can see there cocoa butter, and I can put a little bit of that, and it is very tiny amount, onto my lid. Okay, and I'm going to put that on top of the hot water. Now while I'm talking, you'll find that cocoa butter will start to melt, and I'm going to use cocoa butter. So let me show you some examples while it's melting. There we go, so that's a good example of cocoa painting. And also this one. It's so it's cocoa painting where I've traced the pattern on and I've just painted in the area. Now you'll see on the cocoa painting it has a waxy feel, which is a cocoa butter, but also the look of it's different. It looks more solid than you would with a painting. So I've got my cocoa butter, and it's just started to melt. That's just what I want. Now you can't see it when it's melted. I'll just move those out of the way. I've got powders, so some dusting powder. I'll just pop it over there. So instead of using water as I would with normal painting, or the alcohol or the dipping solution, I'm going to replace the water with the cocoa butter. So I'm just going to mix in the cocoa butter with the dusting powders, and this always works better with dusting powders. And you can see that because this pot of water is very warm, it starts to melt it and keeps it melted. Now if for any time you're working on it you find that your pot's gone a little bit cold and your work is starting to set, then just pop some more hot water and it will start to melt again. But I can paint with this, and I think it's a really lovely technique to use, the cocoa butter. So, I don't know whether you can see it's got a little bit of a different look to it. Now I can, if I wanted to, add two colours. So I'll just mix in, it's got a red colour with this eucalyptus colour. Add in the cocoa butter, so I can mix colours together. And paint. Now, just like I would with the water, I can add more cocoa butter to make it lighter in colour. So if I want one side shaded, for example, I could add a little bit more food colour, but less cocoa butter. So it's a stronger colour, and just add that on the one side. So you can paint over the top of it, just the same as you would with normal painting skills. If I wanted it lighter, if you want to clean your brush, by the way, a great tip is just dip it in the hot water and it will melt the cocoa butter off there, so you can have a clean brush. I'm going to use a little bit more of the white. I'm just keeping it slightly tilted so the cocoa butter just runs onto one side. So I can use more of the cocoa butter if I want it lighter, but I can also use white dusting powder if I want to make the colour lighter, so I can bring in the two shades. So I'm going here with a lighter colour, a little bit darker, going to something darker still. And then using just the cocoa butter on my brush, I could just then mix it all together. So I'll get a shaded effect. So I can paint, I can outline. I can outline something, I can paint on top of it. And that's the techniques of cocoa butter painting. Okay.